Hey, how's everyone doing out there? Hope everyone had a great weekend again. If you can, just let me know how the audio is coming in for you guys. Appreciate it. Let's go through some names here. Carrie Ellen Wilder, thank you. Appreciate that. Chris Powell, he's really one of the good guys out there for sure. Oliver Twist, Tony, how you doing? Rolf Steiner, how you doing? Joshua Tyus, first time I've seen your name here. Welcome aboard. QD, how you doing? Bonzo, always be funding. Bobby Jones, how you guys doing? Again, if you can let me know how the audio is coming in for you guys, appreciate it. Bonzo, thank you, appreciate that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started shortly. Just gather up some notes and things. Polynesian Pip, aloha. Hope things are okay back in Hawaii for you. I know you guys are getting battered a bit. I'm going to have some weather coming in. So we'll be starting in just a bit. Hang in there. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is our weekly live stream. Let's see if we can get through this without any more technical glitches, either with the equipment or with the host. So again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Penn Meister, how you doing? Jimmy Price, Seppa J. Let's see. Jay, you got to change your name. Okay. Annette Walls, how you doing? Middle Tennessee. Okay. Martin Lee, New Zealand, how you doing? Kia ora. Good to see you again. Appreciate all you guys being here. Ron Lee for 5-5. Thanks. Appreciate that. And let's see. United Sovereign Free Nation, how you doing? Shout out to Ted. Appreciate that. Thanks. Guys back in Hawaii, hope you guys are doing okay. I know there's a couple storms heading in, right? Hurricanes. I don't know if there's still hurricanes or if they downgraded, but you guys take care and stay safe out there, right? Magic Man, the Mick 26. Okay, thank you for joining, Mick. Appreciate it. First time I've seen your name as well. Welcome aboard. Appreciate it. C. Pommes, gold and silver are killing it. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look at the gold and silver price shortly. So again, I do appreciate you guys being here. Orpheus Epiphanes, what a name. That's a nice name. How you doing? Canada. Nice that you could join us here. Okay, so SCLDEF 22 still calm on Oahu. Okay, let's hope it stays calm for sure. Let's hope everything stays okay out there. New Jersey, how you doing? News Junkie, Built Fort Tough. How you doing again, my friend? So, as always, if you guys are new to this channel or you haven't already done so, as always, please do subscribe and hit the bell to be notified on new updates and give us a thumbs up. That's the biggest thing you can do to help us is give us a thumbs up if you like what we do or if we added a little value to your day. We really do appreciate that. And you always can find us on social media. silverbullion.com.sg is our website. We are a bullion dealer in Singapore with a little bit more. We're actually more specialized as well into systemic wealth protection. So if you understand what's going on with these types of things, then definitely contact us. So again, silverbullion.com.sg. We're over in Singapore. Silverbullion SG is our Facebook handle. Twitter, Silverbullion PL for private limited. Audio versions can be found on bit.ly, bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify. And Crisis Tracker. This group, it's a really good group. I do hope you join it. If you have Telegram, just go ahead and join Crisis Tracker. And from here, what we do is pretty much daily, except the weekends. We got to rest sometimes. But pretty much daily, we do put news as it pertains to economics, finance, gold, silver, things like that, just to keep us all on the same page and keep us abreast with what's going on. And with what's going on, upcoming guest is going to be Kevin Smith from Crestcat Capital, or it may be Gregor Gregerson, founder of Silver Bullion and the Safe House. It depends. So maybe we might be able to sneak in two this week. We'll see what we can do. But again, go ahead and subscribe. And hit the bell, hit the bell, so you can be notified when his interview comes out, or if Gregerson's interview comes out. Maybe we'll try and do two this week if we can. So a lot of work ahead, because there's a lot of news going on. So let's go ahead and take a peek at some of that news. Or firstly, let's start taking a look at the silver and gold price and see what's going on. Have we hit a new all-time high? Just about. We're just about there. So this is our website, silverbullion.com.sg. US dollar 19.19 20 cents. So we're about to make history. Can you believe that? And the amazing thing about this is when you look at gold hitting its all-time high again, you rarely heard a peep about it, mainstream media. And this is a pretty significant thing going on. So we're all about to see history in the making. And where's mainstream media? They should have been talking about this a while back. But well, I'm glad we all know about it, right? Silver 2307. So we did see silver have a bit of a consolidation, so to speak. It went back down under 23 into mid 22s, and it did bounce right back up into 23. And as we've been saying, silver, each time it goes down, it bounces back quicker. And, this is something that's also pretty significant. You're not waiting, like these 3 weeks, 1 month, month and a half, 3 months to get back to where you were. Uh, you're looking at days now. It's just a matter of days and you get right back to where you were. So silver and gold making some pretty big moves. And nickel, I'm actually keeping an eye on nickel. It's at 13,552 a ton. This is one that I'm really keeping an eye on as well, nickel. And again, do please do download our investor kit. We got some good info on silver and gold. And if you are looking to invest in it, or if you are thinking that, hey, silver and gold, they actually are money insurance and you should learn more about it, this is a pretty good place to start. So download this. It's free. Just need to click on it, and you're going to see it right here. So if in case, some people, they don't like to download things, but you're able to see it from here. So these are some of the topics that are in this free PDF. So it would be a good idea to go ahead and take a look at that as well. And storage account signing up is free. There is no or are no maintenance fees. This is something you will always want to have in your back pocket, because you never know when you may actually have to consider looking at different jurisdictions throughout the world to help you with your wealth protection. Times are changing. The world is changing. We need to have options. This is something I've always said. We need options. P2P basically is when you store with us, you can use your gold and silver as collateral for a secured loan. And so we have people who are willing to lend you money because they know that you have gold and silver as collateral. So this is something we help facilitate. The loan or the lending does not come from us. We're just a platform to facilitate matching up borrowers and lenders. And this is a good thing. A lot of people are doing very well in this. So it is something you may want to go ahead and get in contact with us about and ask us more questions for it. Gold silver ratio 83.2. I think we've seen it go down to what, 81, 80 somewhere last week. And we're back at 83 again. But I do think this should start to, continue to work its way down again. What this means is you need, or if you purchase 83 ounces of silver, that's the equivalent of 1 ounce of gold. And so what people do is they play this ratio. If it's above 80, you definitely want to be buying silver. If it's below 50, you want to be buying gold. And that's the way it works. So let's just say if you bought silver at a time when the ratio was 100 to 1, that means 100 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And let's say the ratio went back down to 50, you could flip your silver now for 2 ounces of gold. So this is what people do. They play the ratio, and we've been seeing it. Guys have been doing pretty good. It wasn't that long ago we were at about 120, 125, and now we're back down to low 80s. So these guys are doing well. They did well in a short amount of time. So those are some of the things with our website. It's pretty interesting place to go to. And then we're gonna take a look here at some things I bookmarked throughout the week. Let It Ride, Comics Gold Deliveries. A record 170 tons of physical gold were just delivered on the comics. What's happening is people are wanting to take deliveries, and comics is, let's just say, scrambling to get that gold in New York. So, this is something pretty significant, something we're watching here. So maybe a good article if you folks want to take the time to go and take a look at it. It's from Zero Hedge. Man the battle stations. Precious metals fire warning shots across the bow. Part 2. Let's go ahead and take a look at this article. It's written from Chris from Mullen, who we had on as a guest a couple weeks back. And again, precious metals fire warning shots across the bow. Chris from Mullen. So it's a pretty recent article. It's the second in our multi-part article researching the massive upside price move in silver recently should cause skilled technical traders to begin sweating a bit. In our opinion, nothing moves metals more than fear, and a move like this in silver recently is a very clear indication that global traders fear the current global economic ability to sustain market valuation levels in the face of bigger and more sustained economic and bug crisis events. Well, I think traders, let's break it down. Why are they worrying? Is because they know that the market is just about completely Fed induced right now. Fed is pumping up the markets. Fed is pumping up the markets. Guys are waking up to this. They're seeing the market is just overpriced, and they're seeing guys moving or looking for things that are overpriced, looking at things that are underpriced. So they're moving from things that are overpriced. Maybe they're taking some chips off the table, moving them into things that are underpriced, things especially like silver. And we're also seeing that with gold. So they're going to move into gold first. That gets a bit expensive. Next thing, they're going to go into silver, a bit more affordable. And then silver price starts to run as well. So will the next shot be a direct hit? A series of potentially destructive economic events are lining up over the next 6 to 12 months, and they all relate to the efficiency of the economic recovery. Again, I'm not a fan of this word recovery. It's just not a recovery. The Fed is injecting, as Peter Schiff likes to say, monetary methadone into the markets. This is not a recovery. Many traders have banked their long positions on. Will the bug subside before the end of 2020? Will the U.S. consumer workers resume their ability to earn incomes? Will the U.S. and global businesses survive the contraction event taking place throughout the globe? Will local, city, state, and other entities survive the contraction in tax revenues, fees, and extended costs related to this massive destructive economic event? Will the stock market continue to rally, or basically stock market's being pumped again in the face of all these issues, and what other unknowns are about to befall us? So you can see just in this paragraph alone, there's so many important questions right now that no one really can answer. There's a lot of uncertainty. And again, this is why we're seeing gold and silver also move. Guys are looking for a bit of safety here. The reality of the situation is that precious metals have already fired a massive warning shot across our bow, and skilled technical traders need to start paying attention. Precious metals don't move higher by 12 to 15% like silver just did for no reason at all. A massive new level of fear must have hit, causing global traders to push silver prices above $23. Silver and other, silver, the other precious metal, has been stalled below $19 for many months. And we saw it take a beat down in March back down to the $12 range. And even while gold was pushed well above the 1750 level and higher. The big breakout in silver is nothing more than a phenomenal warning for all traders and investors. Be warned, risks are skyrocketing higher. So that's some pretty strong words right there. Risks are skyrocketing higher. So what do you folks, what's your take on this? I'm sure you folks have quite a bit to say. Let's see. Some of the comments here. Let's see. Ralph Steiner. The days of cheap gold and silver are in the rear view mirror now. You know, Ralph, that's a great comment. If I can add to that, there's also the factor of being able to obtain it, and you know, we're seeing, you know, put it this way: silver supply, it is there. You can still get it, but it is tightening up a bit. Again, deliveries, they are taking a bit longer to come forward, and you know, it's not how it was. So on one hand, you got the price component where premiums, yes, in a lot of places, premiums are pretty high. When you look at the spot price and then the selling price that you want to pick it up from your favorite bullion dealer, there is a premium now. And the other half of it is supplies are taking longer to come online. And you know, if you also want to factor in with the bug hitting mines in Peru, let's say, or Chile, places like those who do a lot of the mining for silver, you know, if you factor in the bug and mines having to slow production down, or in some cases maybe even close down for a while, you're going to have an issue. You're going to have an issue trying to get silver, trying to get gold. So you know, if you choose to wait for a pullback, a consolidation, nothing wrong with that. You want to try and get it at a better price, nothing wrong with that. But also do be mindful that while you are waiting, there are guys who don't mind pre-ordering, and they're going to go ahead and order something that may not be on the shop shelves yet, but will be there in a week or two. So you got some guys that will only buy when it's there. You got some guys who don't mind, you know, if they know it's coming in a week or two. And bullion dealers, they will tell you, you know, it's on the way, or whatever it is. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions. You know, do you wait, or do you buy it now? Do you take a chance of something going on with the supply on the supply side? Or, you know, we all have our own ways of thinking about it. So, you know, Rolf Steiner, great comment. Appreciate that. Let's see if any other comment is out there. Okay. Um, okay. So let me continue on with what else I found in that Twitter feed. So yes, precious metals, they definitely have fired a warning shot, and we got to pay attention to it and try your best to understand it and convince friends and families, or maybe not convince, but at least talk to them about what's going on with economy, finance, money, currency, all these things, and help them to understand silver and gold. You know, it's more than just an investment. Okay, so another one from Christopher Mullen, silver. It's about to become the superhero of precious metals. That's also a pretty good article to take a look at. Seniors would be devastated if a second wave hits. They can barely make it as is. Yeah, that's a tough one. So let me go ahead and get in this article, share it with you guys. How has COVID-19 impacted Social Security, and will it ever recover? Okay, so this is from Market Watch. Three actual studies weigh in on this crucial question. So this author is talking about an article in mid-April, and he argued that while it was way too early to know what the bug's impact would be on Social Security's long-term solvency, that impact should not be exaggerated, though. So he concluded that there were many other more urgent things to worry about. So 3 months later, from when he first put it out, there's just as much uncertainty as there was, if not more. And we just talked about that uncertainty and fear. But what we do have today, or that we didn't have in April, are three major actuarial studies of possible impacts. One was from Stephen Gross, the chief actuary for the Social Security Administration. The others were from Penn Wharton Budget Model and the Bipartisan Policy Center. So if I can play this clip, let's hope it goes well. See if this will work out.
I opened this business October 1st, 1984, so I have been here 36 years. We had no idea what was coming. It was like seeing a storm off in the distance, but you didn't know what was going to happen.
The loss of my job on March 13th, of course, was something that I didn't look at coming that soon.
I still getting paid by my school, so I feel I'm very, very fortunate in that respect, money-wise.
Well, if you add up all the weeks, we're going to lose more than a quarter of a year. I mean, that's assuming everything comes back to normal now, which it's not going to do. This was my retirement. I mean, I own the building. There's still a loan on it. What I planned on selling it for the value, say, worth 2-3 years ago for my retirement, that has disappeared.
The COVID crisis itself is impacting senior citizens in multiple ways. You're seeing massive job losses, you're seeing a decrease in stock markets, which obviously impact directly older adults' retirement plans. And thus, people are faced with the reality of dealing with not only their health issues, but also dealing with the fact that economically they're pretty substantially impacted.
My husband passed in 2012, and I was unemployed at that time. So I received retirement benefits in the form of widow's pension. And I always think if I didn't have that steady check, what would that do to my quality of life and how would I live?
I would love to retire, but financially, I can't. I can't retire. That means I'd have to live on my Social Security, and I cannot afford to live on my own, my Social Security. I used to have a home, but 11 years ago, I lost it to foreclosure.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll stop it there. I think we all kind of get the picture, right? A lot of our seniors, maybe some of us are seniors. Another problem that compounds this is the fact that we've had very low interest rates for such a long time. And what happens is, as we've found out before, especially when it comes to pensions, you need to be hitting a 7-8% target and on returns, and it's just not happening with lower interest rates. And so what happens is they have to go into a lot of riskier things, and which isn't always the best thing to do, but they're, I guess, for a lot of money managers, hedge funds, things like that, that's what they had to go into to try and get those returns. And now we're seeing the Fed having to bail out, a lot of these CLOs nowadays, these corporate loans that were made. And so even that part is compounding what's going on with especially seniors, where the pensions that's supposed to be there for them, their retirements, it's getting pretty dicey at this point as to whether or not it's really going to be there. So, if these are other reasons again why we see people who they go into things like precious metals, IRAs, and things like that. They understand that they need to protect what they worked all their lives for and move over into something that is a real asset, a real hard liquid asset if in case something should happen with the fiat system, because there's not much time. It's not like 20 years old and we have time to recover. When you get up in age, you don't have as much time to recover. So you really got to look for things that are a bit safer for you. So anyway, it's a tough story. It's a hard one to swallow, where people have put in the time to build and to teach, to educate, whatever it is, and the promises that were given to them just may not be there anymore. So that's a tough story to go with, and a lot of it has to do with politicians. So I just want to touch on one tweet that I found regarding politicians. Came from Catherine Austin Fitz. There's that magic virus again. It only attacks taxpayers who work and or go to church, do not protest. It never attacks the people paid from taxpayer money or central banking printing, including those paid to protest, riot, and loot. What a smart virus. And this story is referring to an article posted by Breitbart, where DC mask mandate exempts lawmakers and government employees. So, yeah, I guess there are some special people in the world, and then there's you and me. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser's most recent mask mandate, which orders 3-year-olds to cover their faces, exempts lawmakers and government employees while they are, quote unquote, on duty. Browser issued the order Wednesday. Let me make this a bit larger for you guys. Sorry about that. That's a bit small. Okay, so issued um, she issued the order Wednesday, mandating last week Wednesday for everyone over the age of 2 to wear a mask both indoor and in outdoor settings. Under the new mayor's order on masks, people must wear a mask when they leave their homes if they are likely to come into contact with another person for more than a fleeting moment. While masking mandates across the nation and in DC typically contain several exceptions, exempting the disabled, those who are actively eating, drinking, people who may be vigorously exercising, maybe jogging and such. But a closer look at Bowser's executive action shows that the order does not apply to lawmakers, judges, or government employees while they are on duty. So, as the title suggested, or Catherine Austin Fitz suggested, this is a pretty smart bug, huh? So, the enforcement provisions of this order shall not be applied to persons in the judicial or legislative branches of the district government while those persons are on duty, and shall not apply to any employees of the federal government while they are on duty. This is what the order says. And the police department is authorized to enforce the order on all of those ages 18 and older. Violators can be fined up to $1,000. So I just wanted to share that one with you guys because, I mean, this is what's causing a lot of friction in with a lot of people right now. Do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? Is it real? Is it not real? And I do see your comments. I read your comments, and but again, this is where in the bigger picture, we're getting to a point where we have to really take care of ourselves. It's quite obvious sometimes some governments, you got to wonder what they're doing, or even in some cases what they're up to. And taking care of yourself also does flow into family health and, of course, your personal finances. And again, it leads back to things like gold and silver. You need to protect these assets as well. I mean, it's a very, very uncertain world ahead that we're all in right now. So we got to try our best to make sense of things. So take a look at another article. This one from Chris Marcus, Arcadia Economics. Chris is one of the good guys as well. Silver leverage is unraveling like the London gold pool. And it is true. And again, this is because of deliveries. Guys are taking deliveries now. If you go back and research the London Gold Pool, which we'll take a brief look at later, part of the reason why it did fail was because there were deliveries being taken, and they could no longer, let's just call it what it was, manipulate the market. So Lawrence Lippard got gold. That is the question. Do you folks have it? Do you have gold? Do you have silver? Krasner is also a good guy with his opinion on silver. William Middlecoop, central bank digital currency, CBDC is the next big thing. And we talked about it last week, how Japan was looking to possibly release it this year, and along with in coordination with or collaboration with the U.S. and Europe. So kind of makes you wonder what speed is this thing moving at. But nonetheless, by Stuart Peterson, The Digital Yuan and China's Potential Financial Revolution. China is trialing a central bank digital currency, CBDC, and the digital yuan could displace physical cash over the next few years. This gives enormous power to the Chinese state, and trade implications are significant. And it's not just China, it's central banks all over the world. This article just happens to be about China. So China is leading the way with the digital yuan. So China is leading the way among large economies in trialing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. You guys are pretty familiar with this. We've spoke about it quite a bit. Its official name is the Digital Currency Economic or Electronic Payment, DCEP. The digital yuan, unlike Bitcoin and other private currencies, will be legal tender, or initially at least it will be issued via Chinese commercial banks. This could mark a change in the international monetary system. The Chinese trial of a CBDC comes at a time when the existing international monetary system is being questioned. It is being questioned. We all know this, right? And to some, the dollar standard is seen as an increasingly anachronistic in a world where the U.S. no longer dominates the global economy and trade. Changes in the global monetary system have often been associated with shifts in the balance of power, changes in trading patterns, and financial innovation. It is hard, therefore, not to view the potential for central bank digital currencies through the prism of renewed great power rivalry, China's rise in regional economic dominance, and its very significant role in the global trading system. So this is just a look at the paper. So there's a few things that stand out. Where digital bank money already exists in the shape of commercial bank reserves at the central bank. Digital money or near money. This is a new word for me, near money. I've never heard of this word, near money. So digital money or near money also already exists in the form of household and corporate forms of digital money and or deposits at commercial banks. How different the DCEP and other CBDCs turns out to be from existing forms of digital money and near money will depend upon many features, including these. Whether or not it ends up replacing physical cash entirely. And I think we all know this looks to be what's coming down the road, where physical cash is going to be removed. And that should most likely include coin. Availability and quantity. Is it rationed or not? Is it available to everyone? Or is it just commercial banks and financial institutions? How is it made available? Does distribution continue to take place through commercial banks, or can households and corporates transact directly with central banks, thus bypassing the commercial banking system? And I believe I came across an article a while back where along with these CBDCs or central bank digital currencies, you're going to have a wallet. So I think that's part of the way that they're going to distribute this. And the degree of anonymity that is provided to the user of a central bank digital currency. So these 4 points, extremely important here. Which way are they going to go with things? Just can't say. But we do know that central bank digital currencies, they are gonna come down the road for sure. Moving on, nothing compares with real gold currency, seven C's. Yeah. Tiger Chan, it can force people to keep spending even at negative interest rates. Yeah. And that's part of it. Central bank digital currencies, you take the physical cash and coin away. Um, you can really throttle the economy the way you want to with your monetary policy. You want people to spend, go ahead and do this negative rates. If they keep their money in that bank, they're going to lose money, so you're going to end up forcing them to spend. You want them to slow down a bit, you go ahead and raise interest rates. They're going to slow down a bit. They're not going to be buying homes and things like that. You're going to see spending and loans anyway start to slow down a bit. So central banks have not been able to get the results they've wanted from monetary policy, but this is one way that they can definitely get the results they're looking for, which is pulling cash and coin away. So all of a sudden, this is Jack Hoagland. All of a sudden, we're seeing real interest from generalists. If this continues, it could be the start of an incredible bull market for gold equities, and it is because Wall Street is throwing billions now at gold miners. Before they weren't really doing so, but now they're really looking at gold miners, and I think you're starting to see gold miners really move and reap the rewards. Jamie Dimon's warning for U.S. economy: nobody knows what comes next. Before I get into that, I just want to take a look at what you folks have been talking about here. Let's see. Okay. Well, you folks have some pretty active comments going on, right? Talking about masks and whatnot. It's a tough call, guys. For sure, it is a tough call because, as I've said before, I know people. My wife knows people who have been affected and have passed on. Almost entire families have passed on. So it's really a tough call. Okay, so all right, you guys are doing okay with your comments there, so I'll let you continue on. Nothing I could really add. You guys are doing just fine without me. Okay, so let me take a look at one more article. And yeah, Jamie Dimon's warning for the U.S. economy: nobody knows what's coming next. So let's go ahead and open up this one from CNBC, because this is going to lead into the other part of the live stream. Jamie Dimon's warning for the U.S. economy: nobody knows what's coming next. The range of outcomes for the economy in the second half is incredibly wide. JP Morgan Chase sees no fewer than 5 different paths it can take. The bank has gotten more pessimistic, seeing unemployment in its default base scenario hitting nearly 11% by the end of this year, 4.3% worse than when it made the same forecast in April. In a worst-case scenario where the virus surges further in the fall, forcing another round of widespread shutdowns, unemployment could peak at roughly 23%. The word unprecedented is rarely used properly, Dimon said earlier last week. This time it's being used properly. It's unprecedented what's going on around the world, and obviously COVID is a main attribute. So attempting to forecast the path of the American economy right now is like peering into a dark well. Nobody knows how deep the hole goes. Even Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase and veteran prognosticator of all things financial, is flummoxed. That's an interesting word, flummoxed. As head of the financial systems bellwether, a bank with $3.2 trillion in assets and the fortress balance sheet, remember him saying that? In assets that serves almost half of U.S. households and a wide swath of its businesses, Dimon has a unique vantage on the world's largest economy. The word unprecedented is rarely used properly, Dimon said. And as earlier this week last week when JP Morgan reported their second quarter earnings, this time it's being used properly. It's unprecedented what's going on around the world, and obviously COVID. Okay, so we read that part. More than 4 months into the pandemic, the financial damage wrought by the outbreak has yet to fully register, and I definitely agree with that. We have no idea yet what the toll is going to be and how much deeper it's going to go. So take JP Morgan, for instance. The bank added 15.7 billion to reserves for unexpected loan losses in the first half of this year, but second quarter loan charge-offs in its sprawling retail bank actually declined 3% to 1.28 billion, or roughly the same level seen before the virus. And that's because the CARES Act injected billions of dollars into households and businesses, masking the impact of widespread closures. As key components of that law begin to phase out, the true pain may begin. As many as 25.6 million Americans will lose enhanced unemployment benefits by the end of July, and it's unclear if Congress will extend the 600 per week in additional payments that has buoyed so many households. And from what I understand, I think they're going to extend it, right? So in a normal recession, unemployment goes up, delinquencies go up, charge-offs go up, home prices go down. None of that's true here, Diamond said. Savings are up, incomes are up, home prices are up. So you will see this effect of this recession. You're just not going to see it right away because of all the stimulus. Okay, that's a pretty interesting statement. The bank has provided forbearance of 1.7 million accounts so far. More than half of credit card and mortgage customers in the program have made at least one monthly payment, but these vulnerable customers could stop paying altogether as their federal benefits collapse. Coupled with the historic steps taken by the Federal Reserve to prop up financial markets, the so-called recovery, right? Several banks actually had a banner quarter. Let me read that one again. Is this how disconnected we've become? Coupled with the historic steps taken by the Federal Reserve to prop up financial markets, several banks actually had a banner quarter. Yeah, I'll be nice and continue on. JP Morgan earned the most revenue ever in the second quarter, 33.8 billion, largely driven by a boom in trading activity and a rush by corporations to tap debt and equity markets. It was the best quarter for Wall Street in a decade, allowing Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to notch records as well. Wow. what can you say to that? What can you say to that the children can stay in the room and hear? I don't think you can say much. Kids, leave the room, right? That's just incredible. What's really going on? Getting a lot of money there, and saying how good that they're doing, when the simple fact, like a lot of us already know, if the Fed isn't injecting money, a lot of these guys are in trouble right now. So we said before, the banks are pretty silent. You don't hear much going on in the banking sectors. Usually when things are quiet, something's really going on, and yet they'll come out with a piece like this and say, "Hey, look at us. We're making good money here. We're hitting record amounts and whatnot." Or anyway, it's that's really crazy to hear. It's really crazy to hear. Let's see. The enslavement of Western civilization. You guys need to remember, not so long ago, JP Morgan used to short the silver market. Now they're the biggest holder of physical silver. You can figure the rest out for yourselves. Yeah, that's a good point. Very, very good point there. Hang on. I think someone had I may have missed it. Sorry about that. Somebody gave a super chat or donation thing. I forget. Let me try and find that real quick. I want to thank you for it. Let me scroll up, see if I can find it. Hey, I hope I can find it. But I did see one come in through the corner of my eye. I wanna thank you for it. I can't find it. I can't find it now. I apologize, but thank you for that that super chat. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for it. Apologize for not acknowledging at that time. Apologies, but thank you very much. Okay, let's see what else is out there. Let's see, Frank Zappa gold trading at 1919 right now. Yeah, we're pretty close to that all time high, for sure. We'll see what happens if we can get there. Maybe even during this live stream, that'd be pretty cool. But okay, so this is kind of where we're at, and with Jamie Dimon's warning that he doesn't, I mean, there are a lot of uncertainties. It took me back to that interview I had with Chris Powell, where he did mention some things about J.P. Morgan. So from here on out, what I'd like to do is go back to the recent Chris Powell interview that was posted last week, and just take a look at a few key things that Chris had to say. So I'll start first with what he had to say about banks.
It very much puzzles me, Pat, because I don't think J.P. Morgan Chase would be doing anything in the monetary metals markets, the currency markets, without the assent of the U.S. government. Now, if Morgan has been executing government trades, I think it's very plausible that Morgan traders could be front-running government trades. But the spoofing is really the small part of it. The government intervention would be much bigger than spoofing. Now, with the Justice Department already have gotten convictions and confessions from Morgan traders, and those confessions implicating the highest officials at the bank. I'm just puzzled that surely J.P. Morgan has as much on the government as the government has on J.P. Morgan. If Morgan has been executing government policy, executing government trades, so why is the government prosecuting these lower level Morgan traders? One possible explanation is it's that it's just cover, that they're setting up lower level fall guys. I don't know, but the prosecution very much puzzles me because Morgan is certainly, it's a primary dealer in U.S. government securities. It has executed many policies for the Federal Reserve and the Treasury over the years. If the government pressed Morgan too hard criminally, I think the Morgan people could tell some interesting stories about the government too.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something to behold? But J.P. Morgan, is it true that although J.P. Morgan has a seemingly perpetual short position for precious metals derivatives, but it's still net long given its even larger stash of physical precious metals?
Well, that's mostly speculation to me, Pat. I don't know what Morgan's true net position in any market is. It could have a position on the COMEX that's reported that is balanced, offset by a position in over-the-counter markets in London that are not reported. I don't think we can count on any assertion as to what Morgan is really doing, what its position is in any market at any particular time on a net basis. You might get a report for one particular market where public reports are required, but would you know what the bank's full position throughout the world is on balance? I don't think you could find that out without really going through the bank's own books, which hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so Chris Powell just laying it out. It's pretty interesting stuff there. Perhaps there's just too much dirt on each other, that the bank has too much dirt, government has too much dirt, and the best thing to do is just not to unbury things. I guess don't dig too deep. But who knows? J.P. Morgan, I would assume they definitely know what's coming down the road. Probably even have some guidance with Federal Reserve or influence anyway. So they're their own entity, as some of you guys said. They're too big to fail. Definitely too big to fail. Elbo Sanchez, COMEX is done. People want the physical now. That is true, and that also tied in with J.P. Morgan in a sense where, before guys weren't taking physical, so they could always keep shorting the market and, keep the manipulation, so to speak, going. But now guys are wanting physical. So it's getting a bit tougher, and we're starting to see silver really rise to a point. Well, perhaps maybe even more importantly, when it goes down, like I was saying, it comes back a whole lot quicker. So again, these are all signs that there are definitely things going on in our financial system, the economy, monetary system. Things are going on, and guys are seeing it. Guys are moving to take shelter. So again, um, silver and gold, it's not just an investment. There's a lot more to it than just that. But central banks have ended up being more or less kind of reactionary into markets, and are setting monetary policy on what has happened and trying to correct our or guide markets going into the future. And I think the future they see is it's the same future we see, that, and that being the demise of the dollar and basically all fiat currencies. Even central banks are looking for a hedge against what they themselves are printing. So even central banks now, they may even want a higher gold price. And Chris Powell talks about this also.
Back in 2001, Peter Millar, a Scottish economist, a few years ago wrote a paper about the use of gold by central banks to devalue currencies and debt to prevent interest payments from going exponential. So this has been written about academically, and I think understood by central banks for many years. We devalued the dollar here in the United States in 1933 and 1934 by raising the gold price. Central banks very well right now may be engineering this. 8 years ago, the U.S. economists Paul Brodsky and Lee Quaintance wrote a paper hypothesizing that the real scheme by central banks with gold was not just the price suppression that Gata was complaining about, but the real scheme was to, Brodsky and Quaintance said, was to reallocate international gold reserves among governments so that the governments would be hedged, their exposure, their foreign exchange exposure to U.S. dollar-denominated investments and bonds would be hedged against the inevitable devaluation of the dollar, that they would lose wealth in their foreign exchange when the dollar was devalued, but it would be offset by a corresponding increase in their gold reserves. And Brodsky and Quaintance hypothesized that the central banks were spreading gold around now in preparation for the dissolution of the dollar system and some reestablishment of gold in the financial system.
Okay, and this is something that we are seeing, and some of you guys already mentioned this. You guys are a smart crowd, where central banks are looking to increase their gold reserves. Okay, central banks are going to increase their gold reserves. The World Gold Council has released a gold reserves survey that determines central banks are planning to substantially increase their buying of gold bullion. And yes, congratulations to gold. It has hit its new all-time high. So we all made history. We're together at this time, and maybe it's something we'll look back on and remember it. So thanks for being here at this time, at this point in history for gold. But getting to this article at the same time, factors that were relevant before the bug, such as negative interest rates, increased political risk, concerns about fiscal sustainability, and changes to the geopolitical order, continue to inform central banks' view of gold. Looking ahead, profound uncertainty, we've talked about this, about the impact of the bug may accelerate some of these factors and in turn prompt central banks to look more closely at gold. A markedly higher proportion of respondents who are planning to add gold to their reserves this year may also reflect concerns about the unpredictable impact of the bug. Ultimately, the combination of recent market developments and persistent long-term trends has strengthened the central bank's interest in gold, pointing to continued purchases from the official sector. Now, let me move on a bit. 88% of the respondents say that negative interest rates are a relevant factor for their reserve management decisions. The continuation of expansionary monetary policies due to the bug, which coincided with the fieldwork of the survey, will likely keep interest rates near zero for the foreseeable future. And 79 respondents' view of gold's performance during times of crisis as an important reason to hold gold, up from 59% in 2019, while 74% consider gold's lack of default risk to be an important reason for holding the metal, up 59% from 2019. Basically, what this is, central banks, again, they realize what's going on, and they are looking at getting gold. Let me just throw this in right now. C. Thomas, thank you. Appreciate it. Chris Marcus, yes, he does. Thank you for bringing that up. Chris Marcus has a petition to ban JP Morgan from trading gold and silver. Can you encourage people to sign it? Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. Chris Marcus from Arcadia Economic, if you follow him on Twitter, he has a petition going around where guys are signing this petition and letting it be known that they want to ban JP Morgan from trading gold and silver. It's a good thing that something like this is kind of made known. Maybe get it more out in public. If you feel that way, I would suggest you go to his Twitter feed, Arcadia Economic, and go ahead and join that petition or sign that petition. So really, it's guys are really, we've guys really had enough of this. Too much manipulation going on from not just JP Morgan, but we see it from a number of banks. They make the news, they stay in the news for about this long, and then it disappears. We forget about it, and we continue banking with them. We continue to go to their banks, continue to use their services. So, some of that is on us sometimes. But anyway, Chris Marcus, he does have that petition. C. Thomas, thank you for the super chat and for bringing that up. I wanted to mention that as well. So good timing. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. So, when it comes to those central banks, yeah, we are seeing them buying more gold and reestablishing gold in the financial system. Banks do see a day where the demise of the dollar will be a fact and not fiction. And for that reason, yes, part of it anyway, they are buying up gold along with uncertainties with what's going on with the bug. You got all this unemployment going on. It's not just in the U.S., it's all over the world. Governments are having to take care of their people now. And so again, just too much uncertainty. They're buying up gold. Eventually when the dollar does fall, it stands to reason all currencies are going to take a hit to offset debts on a falling currency. Gold is a choice because as currencies go down, price of gold goes up. And whatever that nominal value is, I think that's kind of irrelevant because I think in the end, what guys are going to look at is a commodity to commodity type of a deal where, because commodities are real, how much can something real get that is also real? So I think, we're going to end up heading into that area. So nominally, the price may not matter. It's more about a comparison when you look at it commodity to commodity on that type of a basis. Hidden Numis Mattis, thank you. We appreciate you also. Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, I say this and I truly do mean this. Your comments are the most important thing because I will tell you this. I see it where guys are sitting on the fence. They don't know what to do. They hear about silver and gold. They may pull up a chart. They see the big hit down that it took, and then they see it creeping up, but they don't know quite enough about it. Some, they just get into it purely as an investment. But we try to get them to understand, as well as you through your comments, that it's more than just an investment. It is a form of insurance in some ways, where, just as mentioned here, when fiat or currencies really go down, you need that store of value. And so when that currency goes down, that value, let's say a $50 bill is stored in a silver coin or whatever it is, that $2,000 is stored in a gold coin. So when that value of your paper goes down, your wealth or the value of what you have is in that coin instead. So as this disappears, you're here now. So you're in a different space where this thing, again, stores the value of your wealth. And this is something it's very important that we understand this because the nominal amount is one thing, and we're seeing a nice nominal amount today, but it stores the value of your wealth. So, like I say, if you have a $50 bill, you transition it over into a, let's just say, a silver coin. If anything happens with the currency, you're into the silver coin now. So you straddled it. You have one foot in the current monetary system, and then you have another foot which is straddling over into stores of value, things like precious metals. So hidden numismatics appreciate that. Numismatic coins, sometimes they do well. Sometimes they can do very 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 well. So some guys may even want to take a look at those. So looking at some other comments, let's see. Um, Elbow Sanchez, I'm like 80/20 PM. Is that your ratio? Silver to gold. So and that's one thing guys do also. I know when I first started I was strictly silver, nothing else. But then over time I learned that yeah, you kind of it is a good idea to have the two. So some people they do have a ratio. I'm not sure if that's what Elbow Sanchez is referring to, but they have a certain ratio where every for a certain amount of silver ounces they'll go ahead and get gold ounces. Other guys, and we see this, they will just come in. Um, the guys that are really in wealth protection, they will come in, buy a good amount, and they're happy. They will let it sit, and that's their insurance. That's their wealth protection, and they may add to that position every now and then, but they'll go for the bigger things. Um, Mainly because the bigger you go, the closer you are to spot price, the lower your premium anyway. So people do things in different ways. We all have different situations. Sometimes it allows us to do different things. Um, so yeah, let's see what happens with mainstream media, if this makes news or not. But Chris Powell, he also went on and talked a little about manipulation because we've seen it. I think all of us have seen it. So this is what he had to say about that.
The organization that should be the spokesman for the gold sector and free markets, the World Gold Council, I think is basically a tool of governments and central banks. It has never addressed the intervention issue, and I don't think it ever will. And I suspect that's because some of the major gold miners themselves are, if not tools of the governments, they're very willing to avoid the issue. And I understand why the gold industry doesn't want to get into this issue. I mean, gold is the most capital intensive business in the world, and since it's the most capital intensive business in the world, it can't function without the major investment banks, which are very much agents of the government. Secondly, the mining industry requires the approval of the governments to operate in virtually every respect. Mining companies need mining permits, and they're subject to environmental regulations and royalty requirements from governments. So, mining companies can be very much intimidated out of this issue because they are so much under the thumb of their own investment banks and their own governments. So the World Gold Council is composed of major mining companies. I don't think the major mining companies want the trouble that they might cause by getting into this issue. They might lose their financing from their investment banks, and they might lose their mining permits from their own government. So I've resigned myself to this lack of support from most big players in the gold mining industry. But so we do what we can. I mean, if this story gets out more widely enough, the rigging of the market will fail.
Okay, so if the story gets out wide enough, the rigging of the market will fail. I should back up a bit. It was in the context of why don't miners who have been getting hit for decades, why haven't miners really stepped up or gotten together to try and fight this manipulation? And that was Chris's response, because miners need funding, so they can't exactly bite the hand that's feeding them. Talking about the central banks. So anyway, let's take a look at a few more comments. Elbow Sanchez again. It's also nice to look at, referring to gold and silver. Um, it is. It's very nice to look at. In fact, to share a quick story with you guys. It, I I do keep some with me at home. Like I said, hands reach, cars reach, out of reach type of a scenario. And that safe is always cracked open. You're in there looking at your coins and whatnot, and then the wife will come along and say, "Hey, you look at your coins more than you look at me." So yes, Helpo Sanchez, they are nice to look at, but when you married guys, don't forget to take a look at your wife as well. So yeah, it's kind of a married guys. You know what I'm talking about. But so anyway, that was what Chris Powell was referring to, were the miners. And something else discussed was if the U.S. really holds as much gold as they say they do. But Chris did say there's even a bigger problem than that, and this is referring to is the gold really there in Fort Knox or where it may be now? So he was saying there's even a bigger question than that, and we'll get into that. Let me pull up something. Danny the plumber, you always got great comments. How's your 401k doing? You know, this is one thing that is always, I shouldn't say always, but often overlooked. Um, sometimes the media likes to push the wealth gap, which there is, and the whole 1% deal, and how these guys are being taken care of, and people are not being taken care of, and things like that. But with 401ks, you know, even though I myself also say, yes, the market's manipulated, Fed injection, this, that, this, that. The thing is, a lot of 401ks are tied into the market. So when that market goes up, when the stocks go up, your 401k also goes up. So in being fair, I'd have to say that it is helping out both the wealthy and the average Joe. The average Joes, you're going to see an increase in your 401k. You have been seeing an increase in your 401k. So, I mean, just to keep things in perspective, um, the wealth gap, I don't think much of us really appreciate the wealth gap that's getting wider, I guess, depending on where you are. But the reality is also when the markets go up, the 401k is also going up. And this is where I tell guys, look, hey, maybe you might want to consider rolling over some of that 401k into precious metals, because that 401k is in paper still. Um, Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever it may be. That's the arena your 401k is in. So if the markets tank, your 401k is going to take a hit. And so, again, if you can, talk to a company about a precious metals IRA and seeing if it's possible for you to roll it over, part of it anyway, at least into something like precious metals. It may be a good thing for you. It's not. Everyone has a different scenario, different case. But the reality is, yeah, when the stock market goes up, your 401k is probably going to go up with it. But when the market goes down, your 401k is going to take a hit. And 401ks, it's if you do something like a precious metals 401k, and then you go ahead and you pick up gold and silver and things like that. The good thing is, it's not like it's coming out of your back pocket, your wallet. It's not like you're paying it from your monthly salary, or you're taking a hit in your lifestyle. This is already there. Your 401k is already there. So, when guys talk about, and I've said this before, allocate 10% of your portfolio into gold and silver, things like that. When people talk about it, and a lot of guys will say, I can't afford it. This is only for, people who have money and things like that. Stop a bit, take a step back. You do have it in your 401k. Chances are you do have it in your 401k, where maybe that's your portfolio of sorts, where you can go ahead and maybe roll over 10% of that, if that's what you're comfortable with. It's not financial advice, professional or otherwise. Disclaimer. Just saying that there are options out there. Um, so that's a good comment. I may have been straddling it a little bit on both sides, but I do see where the markets when they go up, so does your 401k. So that's something to also consider. So getting back to this, Chris Powell also did say that there is a bigger problem, more so than if the gold is really there. So let's get into that.
Well, the U.S. has reported its gold stock, but to me, that's not the important thing. I mean, there could be 8,133 tons of gold at Fort Knox or at Fort Knox and West Point. That's not really the question. The question is, who owns it, or what are the claims to ownership? I used to joke that on Monday, the U.S. Treasury Secretary could show the French ambassador around Fort Knox and say, hey, take a look at your gold. And on Tuesday, he could bring in the German ambassador and show him. And, Wednesday, he could bring in the Italian ambassador. And they all think they could own that gold. The real issue with any central bank's gold reserves is the impairment of those reserves. If there is any impairment, the secret staff report of the International Monetary Fund from March 1999, which got obtained, shows that the IMF refuses to make central banks distinguish their gold reserves into two categories: gold in the vault, gold out on loan. Because if the public and the markets ever knew that, they would know what ammunition central banks have left for their currency market interventions. So the IMF continues to let central banks consolidate their gold position and to conceal gold leases and gold swaps with their gold in the vault. Central banks have been playing in the gold market for the beginning of time. I mean, the gold standard itself was a mechanism for governments to rig the gold market, and then governments realized, hey, wait a minute, gold has too much control over us. Why don't we control gold? And that's when they created things like the futures markets. But I think, Pat, that there is pretty clearly now a move, at least among half the world's central banks, or at least those central banks representing half the world's economy. There's a move among them, I think, to move back to gold, to get out of the dollar system, to democratize the financial system a little bit. And the United States might just become part of that if it wants to devalue its debts enough. People talk about a debt jubilee, a forgiveness of debts. I don't think that would ever be done directly, but it could be done indirectly by currency devaluation. It could be done indirectly by government assuming people's debts and paying them off in devalued money. So in that sense, I think, it's very possible we are moving toward a debt jubilee as part of the fabled currency reset that some people talk.
Okay. So some points. IMF refuses to make central banks distinguish between gold in the vault and gold out on loan. There is a move by half the world's central banks to get out of the U.S. dollar. Possible debt jubilee. So gold out on loan, leases, Instex, and Jubilee. From past live streams, we spoke about Instex, which is a functioning payment transfer system built by Europe, and it creates the U.S. SWIFT system. So the U.S. wants to, or I should say Europe, they want to do business, and this helps them to do business without the U.S. controlling or having prying eyes to see what's going on. U.S. at times, it does weaponize the dollar. So, we have to sometimes see things from different points of view. And yes, countries, including traditional allies, are getting off the U.S. dollar. So with the Jubilee, we're sort of seeing it. We're sort of seeing it unfold before our eyes. But what about the gold on lease? And for that, I want to recall an interview from Kitco. And But with that, I want to put up something Elbow Sanchez said here. U.S. may have the gold, but who actually owns it? And he nailed it. He nailed it on the head. Let's say even if the gold does exist, it is in Fort Knox. Can we confidently say that it was never leased out, or the people who own it still own it? A lot of questions still would be behind that. But here's an interview, a little bit older interview from Kitco that I want to share with you guys.
Jim, I want to get your thoughts on Germany repatriating its gold. The news came out that it got its gold back from Paris, from New York. Now, mainstream media was quick to point out, hey, this happened 3 years ahead of schedule.
Right.
So while some applauded it, it raised some red flags for you. Why?
Well, this is a very complicated story, but as you know, in 2013, the Deutsche Bundesbank, the central bank of Germany, notified the Federal Reserve and also the Bank of England and the Bank of Paris, Bank of France, that they wanted their gold back. Some of their gold, not all of the gold. Germany still has gold in New York, and they still have some
Right.
gold in London.
A little over 1,000 tons.
Right, they did get all the gold back from Paris. So they left some of the gold, but they wanted it back. And the Fed said, well, it's going to take 7 years to get you all the gold back. And everyone said, well, aha, this proves the Fed doesn't have gold,
Right.
which is nonsense. They do have the gold. Could be leased. The physical gold is there. It could be leased out, and you might have had to wait until the leases run off before you could ship it back. That's a separate issue. But here's the point. Germany doesn't want all the gold back. They did this for political reasons, and this is why it was finished early. 2013 was an election year for Merkel. 2017 is an election year for Merkel. They have a parliamentary system. There's a very small minority party. It's kind of a nationalist Trump-style party, and they're banging the drum about getting the gold back. So they put in the original notice to appease that party. Merkel wins the 2013 election. They finished the deliveries in 2017. No, the election is September 24th. It's not a coincidence that they finished the delivery 1 month ahead of the election, because this boosts her standing with this little party. So there's a political motivation behind that. So and the other reason they don't want all the gold is because there's no gold leasing market in Frankfurt. Nobody wants to do deals under German law. There's no well-developed leasing market in Frankfurt. So they didn't want all the gold in the first place because they wanted some floating supply in New York and London to run leasing operations, to run the gold manipulation, number one. Number two, the timing is explained by the political dynamics inside Germany. So there's a lot of backstories here.
Okay, so if Frankfurt cannot lease the gold out, if it's just
Right.
sitting in the vaults, isn't
Right.
this price positive for gold?
Absolutely, because to run the manipulation scheme, it's sort of 100 to 1 paper to physical, but you need some physical. Think of it as an inverted pyramid. You've got all this paper gold, COMEX futures, and unallocated, London Bullion Market Association forward contracts and ETFs and all this paper gold on a little bit of physical gold, but you do need some physical. When you that's the floating supply. When you take a little bit of that physical out and take it out of the floating supply where it's not available to support financial transactions, the pyramid gets more unstable and the likelihood of a price spike goes up. We're also saying this. I was in Switzerland recently and I met with some of the private vaults, and they said gold is moving from the banks, so UBS, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, and others, to private vaults like Loomis and Brinks and others. So, but the difference there, people say, well, what's the big deal? You take a bar of gold, you move it from this vault to this vault. What's the difference? The answer is this: when you take it out, this reduces the floating supply, and when it goes into Brinks, it's not available for
So
leasing.
this is why they dragged it out over the course of these years, because many people said, it wasn't that much gold. Why couldn't it be moved faster?
Well, physically, it could have been moved in a matter of days. Logistically, there was no impediment to that. But legally, and this is really the issue, as I said, they didn't want to disrupt the gold leasing market. If the New York gold is leased out, you've got to wait till the leases run out before you can ship it.
Okay, so
Aha. Interesting stuff there, right? Again, all credit to Kitco. Okay, so that makes sense as to why the IMF does not want central banks, or does not require central banks to distinguish gold in the vault and gold on lease. Absolutely makes sense why they don't. And it makes sense. And this is why Elbow Sanchez said, the gold might be there, but who actually owns it? So again, you guys, very smart guys out there. I want to give you another take on why gold is not reported. This is a little bit older. Maybe you guys have seen it, but it's explained pretty well.
Let's start at the basics. The Federal Reserve is a collection of banks. We don't know whose banks they are. We're not allowed to look at their books or anything else. They're the ones that we put the gold in, and then they give us this instead. They print our money. But we're not allowed to see that we just gave them all that gold. Yes, that unfortunately is the way it works. Sounds like a scam already, doesn't it? The money has to be backed by something. It needs to be backed by gold. So we put all of our gold into the Federal Reserve, just a giant bank. And they gave us a stack of cash. And then we said, okay, this is the cash the Federal Reserve has. Remember, it's all backed by gold. Then we convinced the entire world, not just the U.S., but the rest of the West. Germany gave it to us, Japan, the UK, everybody gave us their gold to hold, like in a safety deposit box for the entire world. Okay? Safety deposit box. Why I said originally they weren't going to give their money back to them for 7 years is because rehypothecation is exactly what happened to our housing crisis. And it's happening to our gold because everybody got greedy. Everybody was greedy in the housing market. Not necessarily you, but the banks. Here's what happened. Let's say these were just houses. Jeremy here wanted to buy a house. I was a bank. I said, okay, I'm going to need your house as collateral. You continue to pay for that, but I'm holding that collateral. But then me as the bank, I need a loan. So I go over here to Germany and I say, hey, Germany, I have this house over here. If you'll just give me some money for this house, then we'll be square. But if I don't pay you, then you can take this house. Well, wait a minute. I can't really do that because then he becomes the owner of this house, but I'm the owner of this house as well. And then he says he needs some money, so he sells this same house to Japan and then to England. And we keep selling everything to each other over and over again. There's no real asset. If he defaults and doesn't pay me, I default. And because I default, he says, I'm going to default, and he says, give me the house. Well, I'm sitting for the house.
Okay, I'll stop that one. There's a little bit long. So basically, defaulting is delivery. When guys want delivery of that gold and it's not there, that's a problem. That's default is, I guess, might not even be the right word for it, but that's the problem. And going back to what Elbo Sanchez said, the gold might be there, but who owns it? And it goes back to what Chris Powell said, where this is why the IMF doesn't require central banks or banks to distinguish the difference between gold in the vault and gold on loan or what's in lease. And this is why now, when guys actually want to take delivery, and with the uncertainties in the financial markets, employment, all this other stuff, we're seeing gold making record highs, and it's not going to stop. Even if there's a pullback, I think it's safe to say that we're going to see it continue on an upward trend, and we're going to see silver really slingshot along with it. So I want to get back to Glenn Beck and show you another portion of what he had to say.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am an independent financial journalist. In connection with the transfer of 37 tons of Bundesbank gold from New York to Germany, I came across the news that the bars were melted down before the transfer. May I kindly ask you the following information? Why were the bars melted at all? And why couldn't that wait until the bars arrived in Frankfurt? Lars Scholl. Great question, Lars. The bank's answer wasn't really an answer at all. They explained that they have a new storage concept to ensure that certain specifications are met. They claimed the bars had to be melted to meet these specifications. Why in the world would you need to melt it down before it got to Germany? If you ever seen the movie The Italian Job, what's on that bar? It's stamped with a dancer, right? I don't know what Germany's has on it. I don't know, maybe a big beer stein or something. But they're all stamped. And why are gold bars stamped like that? Do you remember in the movie, what did they say? Everybody knew. Remember, that's why the one guy got it in the head, because he was like, oh, this is... Everybody knew who owned that gold. That's why every country stamps it to authenticate the weight and the purity. Let's talk about purity for a second. Several years ago, the Fed had to respond to reports that damage had happened to Britain's gold, when Britain asked for some of its gold back and left it with a purity of just 91%. What does that mean? Again, I go to the bank, I give them this, and then I say, what's the purity of this? It was 99.9% pure when I gave it. If it's 91% pure, there's a problem. When you melt down these bars and send them back, you negate the authenticity. We're not able to send them the right amount of gold at all. We're not able to send them their actual bars of gold. That's a red flag to me. And it should have every American and every press organization up in arms asking questions. The world needs to demand accountability from the Federal Reserve. I don't think it's going to end well when we do. In fact, I think it ends horribly for everyone.
Okay, so again, interesting stuff. This is why the London gold pool failed, when people wanted to take physical gold, and this is something that can be very well happening again. Only this time it's not just with gold, it's with silver. And this is something, again, Chris Marcus has been pointing out from Arcadia Economic. It's happening with silver now. Guys are taking delivery. And this takes us to the government and central bank intervention. Now, with this one here, again, as mentioned, the London gold pool and intervention. If you're not familiar with this, it is something good to pick up on and understand. So let me just get through to the main part here. Okay. London gold pool. President Kennedy was inaugurated in 1961. Throughout that year, reports circulated of government and banks formulating policy and safeguards to prevent future price rises. We're seeing this here. Government and banks formulating policy and safeguards to prevent future price rises. The U.S. had made it clear that it wanted to stop the drain on its own gold reserves. People are taking gold, deliveries, right? Newly appointed Undersecretary of the U.S. Treasury, Robert Russa, and officials of the Federal Reserve suggested that the U.S., number one, the Bank of England, number two, and the central banks of the West, Germany, France, Switzerland, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, should set up a sales consortium to prevent the market price of gold from exceeding $35.20 per ounce. This was in 1961. So if you don't think gold is manipulated, some people do, some people don't. That's fine. Everyone has an opinion. But at least back here in 61, it was definitely manipulated, where this consortium of, I believe, 8 people sought to manipulate the gold price and stop it from exceeding $35.20 per ounce. This was the London gold pool. Under the London gold pool arrangement, member banks provided a quota of gold into a central pool, with the Federal Reserve matching the combined contributions on a 1-to-1 basis. During a time of rising prices, the Bank of England, the agent, could draw on the gold from the pool and sell it into the market to cap or lower prices. Flood the market with supply. It'll bring the prices down. In the fall of 1961, London gold prices again began to creep up. In November, with the scheme now up and running, prices were once more stabilized in the 35 to 35.20 range. By February of 1962, the gold pool was buying gold as the price dipped and selling as the price rose. This pattern continued over the next few years, somewhat stabilizing London gold prices despite extraordinary demand from or during the Cuban crisis, and as a result of increasing tensions between Washington and Moscow. By 1965, the gold pool was consistently supplying more gold to cap prices than it was winning back. The beginning of the end for the London gold pool was the devaluation of the pound sterling in November 1967, causing yet another run to gold. Through December that year, London sold close to 20 times its usual amount of gold at market. Under pressure from the pool, both London and Zurich ceased the sale of forward gold. In a matter of weeks, the pool had laid out in excess of 1,000 tons, in those days valued at the not insignificant amount of over 1.1 billion. Meanwhile, France, led by outspoken Charles de Gaulle and its fiery economist Jacques Rueff, withdrew from the pool and confirmed their position to send dollars earned by exporting to the U.S. back in demand for U.S. gold rather than U.S. Treasury debt. At this point, the drain on the U.S. gold became acute. Escalation in the Vietnam War in early 1968 brought renewed pressure on the dollar, with the U.S. now running massive balance of payment deficits with the world. As in all of history, during a crisis when gold was again on center stage, demand was skyrocketing. And I think this is what we're going to see again. So a lot of guys like to say Nixon had to close the gold window because of the Vietnam War. The U.S. printed too much to pay for the war. But the foundation of that was the London gold pool, where governments conspired to manipulate the gold price, and they couldn't. They failed, and they failed because people wanted the gold. So just as Chris Powell is saying, Glenn Beck is saying, Elbo Sanchez is saying, who really owns this gold? Because people want it right now. And I think we're going to see more and more people are going to demand the physical gold. We're going to see that gold price more than likely continue to rise, and hopefully it'll pull silver along, and we'll get that slingshot, that silver slingshot. So Chris Powell, he also did speak on government intervention and markets. Just want to roll this one also for you guys.
All prices now, really, certainly all asset prices now, are being established by governments. I mean, the whole response to the virus and the global financial crisis of 12 years ago has been government intervention to prop up stock prices, to prop up all financial assets. We've lost our market economy. I mean, that's the real disaster here. One intervention years ago finally wears out its effectiveness and has to be facilitated by another intervention and another intervention, another intervention. And, after a few years, government is juggling all these balls, is rigging every market to prevent the previous intervention from exploding and collapsing. The real danger here is the loss of our market system, which really I think has been the great engine of human progress over the years. The other problem is the loss of our democracy. We don't understand generally how the financial system is being run for the benefit of the very few, and enriching the very few and impoverishing everybody else.
Okay, so as Chris said, the real danger here is the loss of our market system. And of course, people want delivery of gold and it not being there. But we don't understand how the financial system is being run to the benefit of a very few, enriching the very few and impoverishing everybody else. This could probably be a topic for another time. So maybe what I'll do is I'll end it here. There is a bit more. Let me just scroll through and see if there's anything else important to say. Just want to show you an article from Gada's website, because it does deal with people who want to save and people who want to invest, and this is the difference between the two. Let me go down a bit. It's just this portion here. What's it all about, Charlie? The difference between saving and investing is that savers seek to maintain their purchasing power and investors seek to increase theirs. In the current environment, it is impossible to save at a positive real rate of return, given that interest rates are near zero and central banks are diluting purchasing power through monetary inflation. Everyone's forced to speculate. Currently, cash, bank deposits, and bond holdings denominated in baseless currencies are being diluted by global central banks and losing significant purchasing power, which means savers in these instruments are actually speculating this established trend will stop. Their savers are actually speculating as well, even though they don't think they are. They really are. Their real inflation-adjusted returns are already negative against CPI. And so by implication, they believe the return of the majority, but not all of their purchasing power is better than speculating in productive business to try and generate positive returns on their current purchasing power. And here's the thing. In this, we agreed, this is from Gatto, with Charlie Munger's partner, Warren Buffett. Productive assets are better than cash and bonds denominated in baseless currencies. We agree with any implication that saving in fiat cash or fiat denominated fixed income instruments is a loser's game at current prices. But we would disagree with any implication that it is not the right time to exchange baseless currencies or most productive businesses denominated in them for gold. And this is where we are today. If you're saving, consider, moving that savings into some sort of an asset. Anyway, I did have a bit more, but we're running a bit over time here. Definitely running over time. So, I'll just take a look at a few comments here and see what you folks had to say. Let's see. A lot of comments. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comments. Let's see. Sepa J, gold price says a lot about actual inflation. Absolutely. Guys, they know it's coming up. I mean, all this money printing and everything going on, you got to expect that inflation is gonna start to come in at some point anyway. And with what's going to happening with gold and guys taking delivery, waiting for that consolidation, that pullback. I mean, maybe that's what some guys want to do, but I think at this point it may be better just to go ahead and get it. And because you may get that consolidation, but you may have to wait weeks for it to come, or it just may be difficult to get already at that point. So, you guys are giving some pretty good comments again. Gold is much more than just an investment here. That's for sure. And so I think that's there's a bit more, but I think where we're at right now with the whole gold hitting its highest price ever, and again understanding that this whole rehypothecation thing, this whole shielding from the IMF, where you don't telling banks you don't necessarily have to report on the gold because it's being leased out here and there and here and there. I mean, it kind of tells us where we're at already at this point. So I think we kind of understand this. There's just a lot of leaks that are happening right now, and eventually, everything is just gonna come to head. Everything's just going to break through, and we need to be positioned in a place that is going to help to push us out of the turmoil and into a place where once everything settles, we're in a better place. We positioned ourselves to be in a better place. So with that, I'll just take a look at a few more comments and then we'll head out. Okay. Yeah, true. Inflation is baked in the cake now. It will come, and when it does, it'll come with a vengeance. Yeah, it will. It will. So again, having it there for you is important. Fritz Bender. Oops, sorry about that. Fritz Bender. Okay. Fritz, you're in pretty good shape, taking care of yourself, huh? How does nickel buying work, Patrick? Well, nickel buying, it's pretty much the same as buying gold and silver, where you can buy it from our website, and then we store it. We'll store the nickel for you, and same thing, you can sell it, and it's no different from the gold and silver. You can buy it in 250 kg drums, or you can buy it in 2-ton bags. And nickel, why nickel? Well, a lot of people do see the movement towards things like electric vehicles, mobile energy or power, and nickel does play a significant role in power, especially mobile power. And so guys see this, they understand this, and so they want to get in on nickel now while it's still low. I think its all-time high was 50,000+ per ton, and now it's only at 13,000 per ton. So it's on a low. It's at a low right now. It may be a good time to really get in on nickel, especially since again it's way off from its all-time high. So we're seeing gold move up, hitting a all-time high. Silver's going to be moving up. I think other commodities, especially maybe something like nickel, it's going to be moving up too. Because nickel, like I said, it has that ability to give power, batteries for like electric vehicles and things like that. So I think you're going to see this nickel, the demand for nickel, and the interesting thing with nickel, it's not just any old type of nickel. There's class 1 and class 2 nickel. Class 2 nickel is basically your everyday nickel. Use it for pretty much construction, pig iron, things like that. Your class 1 nickel, that's the only one that can be used for electric vehicles, unless you're going to spend money on it and process it in another way, which makes the price go a bit higher. It's the class 1 nickel that they want for batteries, and that class 1 nickel, it's roughly half or even less than half of the nickel that's mined. So it's pretty strange where, nickel only has one price, but you have two different classes of nickel. So I don't know if maybe this might not be the right example, but it's like saying 999 silver and 925 silver, they're the same price. It's kind of like saying that, because with nickel, the nickel has two different distinct use cases for these two types of nickel. So I kind of look at it as, you're going to have one half of the nickel that's definitely going to be in demand for, let's say, going green batteries, things like that, and then you're going to have nickel for things like construction, things like that, on the other hand. But yet it's only one price. So a lot of guys do think there's going to be a bifurcation in the price of nickel, where because they have two distinct needs or uses, they're going to be two different prices. So that's another reason why, I'm kind of looking at nickel. It's just priced for one type, even though there's two different things that it can be used for. So I'm keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on nickel for sure. A couple more comments, and then we'll head out. Nickel looks good for all batteries of the world. Same with cobalt. Nickel, definitely. Cobalt, there's political things going back and forth with cobalt, but I think in the end, cobalt has very specific uses, and a lot of times it's the only thing that can be used. So I think in the end, same like how Germany kind of politicized the gold during political times, during election times. I think later on in the end, I think, we're going to see cobalt kind of settle down, and then guys will kind of get back to reality in some sense. It's something that we need. In some cases, it's the only thing that can do a certain type of job. So cobalt, it's definitely still on the radar as well. Okay, Fritz Bender, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, Pablo Pina, more lithium reserves than nickel. That I'm not sure. It could be true. You could be right. But the problem with lithium, super difficult to store. Very can be pretty volatile. So with nickel, we can store that, and we're okay. The guys will go to work in the morning, and they will surely go home at the end of the day. Lithium may not be able to give that assurance. It's a bit more volatile. So that's why we have nickel to we're really looking at nickel. We have cobalt as well, but I'd have to say more of the guys are more looking at seem to be more interested in nickel because of the dual role between the class 1 and class 2. But everyone has different opinion. Okay, so let's see what else is out there. Well, I'll tell you what, you guys, your comments have been great. Gold has hit a new all-time high. Maybe let's just head out and let's just go and celebrate the day, and let's see what continues to happen with gold and with silver. And as you guys mentioned, storing overseas, truth is, it may not be for everyone. That's just the simple truth. It may not be for everyone, but if it is for you, understand the jurisdiction is critical, and equally critical with the jurisdiction is the ownership of the company that you're storing with. And what I mean by that is, if they have affiliations, where they're registered, if they have other subsidiaries in different parts of the world. And my opinion, you if you're going to store in a place like Singapore because of the jurisdictional advantages, you may not want it or that company you're storing with to be expanded into different jurisdictions, because governments have a way of twisting arms of businesses to get them to do what they want sometimes. So if you just stay in one government, they're not exposed to another government trying to twist their arm. And so this is one thing about our company. We're solely in Singapore, and we don't really have to deal with arm twisting from other governments. And when you expand into other governments, a lot of times arm twisting can happen. So this is why we choose to stay here. It's a strategic decision for you on your behalf. So anyway, yeah, we thank you all for being here. Time to head out. You guys take care of each other. Be a blessing, not a burden, as we always say. Saddle up for what's coming ahead. It's going to be volatile. Saddle up, buckle tight, silver up as well. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.